having a weekly review practice absolutely changed my life. And now that I am working as an entrepreneur, it's become more important than ever because there's just so many things that I want to get done in a given day, much less a given week. And I know that if I'm not careful, I can absolutely lose track of time and tasks and end up having my day kind of ruled by my inbox instead of being really connected to what's important to me. So I'm here outside my favorite coffee place, and I'm going to go in there. And here's what's gonna happen: I'm gonna go order my favorite coffee. I'm gonna put on my favorite headphones, and I'm gonna start listening to some music to really kind of get me in the zone. So when I do my weekly review, I always do. I listen to an app called Focus at Will, and there's a bit of a cost to it, but the music they choose is supposed to be lined up with alpha waves in your brain, whatever. It's music that basically keeps me occupied and focused and signals to my brain that now's the time to focus on the weekly review. And every time I go through the weekly review, I go through a similar process. I basically I review last week, and I think about my priorities. I use a tool called the priority pyramid to tell me what's the most important thing, then the next thing, then the next thing. And I basically evaluate last week based upon my priority pyramid. And I go through an exercise where I basically look at, well, what happened last week? What did I do, accomplish, kind of the big things? And what were some of the aggravations? I actually intentionally look for aggravations from the week before, irritations, things that I might be holding on to. And I have a bit of a moment where I practice a release meditation to kind of leave the past in the past. And from that point on, I pivot. And then I'm looking, after I do my release, I look for what were the lessons and the gifts from the week. So a lot of people have a gratitude practice. That's very much part of my practice. And then then I have the next phase where basically I pivot into thinking about the coming week. And first, it's tempting to just jump into that calendar and go, okay, here's what I have to do. But I recognize that things pop up on my calendar when I'm out of the mode of being very intentional. And so what I do in my weekly review practice is I actually don't look at the calendar yet. And I just think about what are the most important things that I need to pay attention to in the coming week, and who needs me at my best. And then what I do is I note those things down, and that really puts me in a positive frame. And it also just sort of helps me when I then open up my calendar. I'm looking and I'm seeing, okay, does my calendar actually reflect the priorities that I have right now? And where do I have opportunities? So opportunities on the calendar might look like grouping tasks together that are related a little more closely. Sometimes that means rescheduling meetings. Sometimes that's just rescheduling myself. I always start with my priority pyramid again, and I make sure I've got my self-care scheduled, my workouts are scheduled, I know what I'm going to do with meals and where there's going to be potentially hiccups for things like that. I identify them ideally during the weekly review process. And then, then I make sure I got marriage taken care of. Then I make sure I've got kiddos taken care of. Then I start on the work tasks. And when it comes to work tasks, I really try to take an initiative view of my productivity. It's so easy to just get pulled into task land. And you before you know it, you're doing about a bajillion tasks, and you feel really busy, but you don't feel like you're really moving ahead. So I really tried to think about, well, what are my really big projects that I'm working on? What are the things that really matter? And am I accidentally focusing on something that's shiny instead of focusing on something that matters? And kind of being that ruthless with the calendar and delaying on things that don't make sense, and to focus on right now, and prioritize focusing on what does make sense to focus on right now. So there's a little insight into my weekly review habit. I hope it serves you, and I hope you have an awesome week. Take care. I almost forgot to tell you. My weekly review process is something that I do with most of my clients. And it is something that I've actually pulled together into a downloadable, and I would very much love for you to have it. So I'm going to post a link with this video that you can go ahead and download your very own weekly review planner. And like I said, this is a bit of a different review process, but I find it to be very, very powerful. And I've gotten a lot of feedback from folks that have used it that they find that it really shifts their game as well. So I hope that it serves you. All you have to do is click the link and go to the page there, and you'll be able to download the weekly review planner and get to it yourself. All right. And of course, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. You can follow me on YouTube. You can also subscribe to my weekly newsletter, and that'll do for this week. I hope you have an awesome one. Take care.